It's about the I gotta say, it's the stupidest thing in sports.
Being able to run as he shoots the moon to the fans here in Green Bay.
That is a disgusting act by Randy Moss.
This is not Detroit, man. This is the Super Bowl.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
The
go. Goff from the top.
This is BS Sports.
Well, we are back again this evening. Seth is out this week. He was consumed by the awful college football from week 0 this past weekend. We're back, and just like this show, college football is back. Real football. I'm not talking about preseason. I'm not talking about spring training. I'm not talking about any of that. Real, actual football in which the games and the results, in theory, actually technically matter, is finally back. We got week 0 this weekend. I'll talk about it very briefly because, frankly, it was a crime to the sport of football. What went on this past weekend in terms of performance. I'm sorry. It was disgusting. What I witnessed was actually sickening. And the worst part about it is, I'm gonna briefly talk about this. Every time, like, we get to this point in the year, right? Everyone's like, "Oh, week 0, college football is back. We can finally." I know it's week 0. Maybe the matchups are like, but maybe this year it'll be. And no, we're like in an abusive relationship. Every year we come back and we're like, "Oh no, this year Notre Dame Navy. That's gonna be the game." And Notre Dame just scored another touchdown. And we're like, why do we even do this? Why do we allow ourselves to do this? But yeah, so we got that to break down. We got the final preseason game of the NFL preseason to break down. A little bit of preview with the cut day today for the Lions, what's going on with them. We also have a little bit of baseball we'll sprinkle in, just a pinch, like literally like a small segment where I'll talk about baseball and what's going on with the Tigers as they are losing to the Yankees once again, 1-0. So all that and a whole lot more, I'm sure. I'm looking at the show sheet now. We have a lot of things that have broken news, and all sorts of fun stuff. But let's break down this college football week 0 because that's the big headliner story. That's what I put in I didn't put it in the thumbnail, but I put that college football is back, so we got to talk about it. 2 big stories from college football week 0. Number 1, Caleb Williams continues to look like the Heisman candidate. Continues to look like the Heisman favorite, essentially. Caleb Williams threw for 278 yards this past Saturday. The USC offense scored 56 points over San Jose State, who scored a mere 28. And I say a mere sort of sarcastically. The thing about this is, like, they had a rusher, I don't know if that's not them. Quali Conley, he plays for USC, doesn't he? No, he doesn't. I'm wrong. San Jose State had a rusher by the name of Quali Conley who rushed for over 108 yards on just 6 carries. Or not over 108 yards, exactly 108 yards. And, the thing about it is, USC just seems to not be able to have a defense, which is really the main concern I'd have for them as a national championship team. Because if San Jose State is able to put 28 up on you, you're gonna have to tighten some things up as the season goes. But the other big story is that Navy, and rather Notre Dame, decided to destroy our beloved Navy. Our beloved Navy in a foreign country. They took our beloved Navy and they trampled them on national television. On national television, on NBC, they went and they scored 42-3. Sam Hartman threw for 251 yards. My goodness. I mean, it was like the game was over by the first quarter. This is a broader point that I have about college football week 0, whatever they're going to call it. This is nonsense. Okay, this is nonsense. You had 2 ranked teams, 2 top 25 teams playing. They were not playing each other, because why would they do that? Why would you want to put a good game on during the weekend when there's literally no competition from the NFL and everybody is dying for football? Why would you want to do that? Instead, of course, what we need is Ohio at San Diego State. That is what the people are asking for. And no, not that school in the Big Ten. I'm talking the Bobcats, University of Ohio. And you also got such memorable matchups as Hawaii at Vanderbilt, in which Hawaii actually sort of came close. Actually, it was 35-28 Vanderbilt on top, but it's surprisingly close, which is concerning if you're a Vanderbilt fan, all like 13 of you. I really like, I would love to talk a little bit more about some of these matchups, but to be perfectly honest with you, not only did I not care, these are teams that are nothing. I mean, like UMass at New Mexico State, UTEP at Jacksonville State. I think there were 30 people at that game. Jacksonville State put 17-14. Wow, what a a real nail biter of a game. I guess that one was at least within 3. The other games, yeah, they were close, but at what cost? At what moral cost were they close? We had this garbage on week 0. You have no competition, NCAA or college football. I don't know who runs it. I don't know who does the scheduling. Colleges, conferences. You have 0 competition from the NFL. You have an entire, I mean, either way, you're on Saturday. So you don't have to worry about that for the most part. But you're really not competing with baseball, okay? Baseball is not going to draw away eyes from football on a Saturday afternoon, unless you're playing this kind of crap, in which case maybe somebody would turn on the baseball game because it might be more interesting. It's just a problem that I have with college football in general is just, for one, the only other matchup that I wanted to watch was the USC San Jose State game. Actually, no, can't watch it. It's on the Pac-12 network, which will no longer exist because the Pac-12 no longer exists after next year. Brilliant. Lou, your response.
Well, I don't get man, comb.
Thank you, Lou. That's what I was about to say. And it doesn't exactly get much better. We'll get to this near the end when we actually preview the first week of college football. But my goodness, I don't know what it is about college football where it's like it starts before the NFL. Like they're a week ahead of the NFL, right? But for whatever reason, they just insist upon these out of conference awful matchups where it is just a blowout. It is just bring this school in, they'll get a bunch of money, and we're gonna kick their ass on national television. Like it's just silly. It just doesn't make any sense to me why you wouldn't enforce some sort of competitive, I don't know, like force them to play competitive teams. I mean, it's ridiculous to me that USC, who is number 6 in the country, according to AP, the number 6 ranked team in the nation, they are playing San Jose State, who, granted, had a pretty close game at the first half. Granted. But still, they didn't win. They got blown out 56-28. That's not a game, okay? That is a, let Caleb Williams warm up, and then he'll start to go off in the second half. Or Notre Dame, number 13 ranked team in the country. They're going to play our armed service members. They're going to play the Navy and put up 42. It's just like, why? Why do we do this? Why? Like, I know that USC Notre Dame, I believe, is either next week or the week after. Why not have that game as week 0? I'm not saying you can't put these other games on TV, but what am I supposed to do with this? This is not interesting football. A lot of these guys, maybe they end up in the draft. I don't know. I mean, hey, Jacksonville State, they go James Houston for the Lions. He went to Jacksonville State, I think he did. Isn't that where that's where what's his name? Showtime. Showtime? Is that his name? Deion Sanders. Is that his nickname? Showtime? I don't know if that's his nickname. That sounds wrong. I don't know. We're going to run with it. But yeah, so week 0 of college football was a giant waste of everybody's time. And yet we all watched, at least we had it on. I had it on. I had the YouTube TV multi-view setting. It was admittedly kind of cool. Although the problem that I have with it, and I heard this on another sports show, like that I'm glad I wasn't the only one. You can't select the specific games that you want to watch, which is strange to me because that seems to me to be the only reason I'd really want multi-view is if I could choose specifically the games I want to watch. Like, for the most part, it was pretty good. Like, they had a sports one, though, where it was like they'd included, like, the baseball game on FS1 or on Fox. I was like, why? I don't care about this. I just put football on. And then, like, for the football, it was like, oh, no, we'll give you these games. We won't give you the other game. We don't know what to do with that. So, yeah. Hopefully, maybe they'll update YouTube TV at some point so you can select the specific games you want to watch. But I'm not sure if I don't even know how it I don't know how the technology itself works. But I don't know. That's just a small thing that I hope they get fixed up. But it'll certainly be interesting once college football actually gets started. And you'll be able to have the multi-view. I wonder how, because we usually do tailgates because I live around the East Lansing area, and I wonder if the tailgates are going to, because it's a little difficult already given the internet situation. I don't know if that's going to be more bandwidth. I'm imagining it would, but maybe I'm totally wrong here. But it's enough about these terrible college football games. I wanted to point out something in the NFL that's been going on. We got a lot of NFL news. Okay, just start with the Lions' final preseason games. Beat the Panthers. Watch the live broadcast is up. If you want to watch my live reaction to that game, every single play, every single snap, all of it, you can watch it back. It's like 3 hours, so if you have time, go ahead and watch it back, or you can skip through to see if you can find the play. But big thing about this game that I took away was one Teddy Bridgewater. Teddy Bridgewater looked a lot better. Let me actually Lions, Panthers. Let's see. Here we are. Let's pull up the box score for this game. Teddy Bridgewater. He only played, I believe, the first half. 13 for 22, 178 yards and a touchdown. All right. I've seen enough. That's all I need. Teddy Bridgewater looked like a very stable quarterback. Took him a week to figure it out. But on the unfortunate end of the quarterback situation, you had Adrian Martinez. 5 for 11 for 39 yards and no touchdowns. He was also sacked twice. Yeah, so not great. Not great stuff from Adrian Martinez. And I believe they're keeping him around. Maybe not. Actually, I'm not sure if they cut him. I don't remember. But the other big news, quarterback-wise for the Lions, Nate Sudfeld. He went down, apparently, tore his ACL. Going to be out for the season. And that sucks because he wasn't going to play anyway. And to add, literally adding insult to injury, you add, a guy who is going to be the pretty much the fourth stringer, if not on the team. And now, with the injury, he's already cut. So they're not going back on that. The other thing to keep in mind, or the other thing to note from this game, Craig Reynolds. Craig Reynolds had 11 carries for 41 yards and a touchdown. He is basically the lone remaining running back from the group. We'll get to the cuts here in a second. But Craig Reynolds, he was a capable running back in 2021. I believe, when DeAndre Swift was hurt in 2021, he would come in. He was decent. He's easily the best running back we saw this whole preseason. The rest of these guys, I don't know where they're basically creative characters. Okay, they're basically as if you just went through an AI and made these characters in a computer, and that's what they are. Receiving end though, Antoine Green, 97 yards on 3 receptions for a touchdown as well. He had an average of 32 yards a catch. Now, obviously, with just 3 catches, it's not exactly, not exactly breaking new ground there. It wasn't like he was catching everything. But he was 3 for 4. And he had a big touchdown. He had a big catch and run touchdown. Got to talk a little bit slower there. And he did look like probably the most pro of the quarterback of the wide receivers. The other ones, they make fine catches. They were playing to the ball. They weren't, they weren't bad. But it feels like they obviously at this point they do like Antoine Green better. Just given that he did not get cut. And a few of these guys did get cut. We'll get to it later because some of them are on this list or on this receiving list. And whoops, I burped. They did not end that way. But the other thing to note, there wasn't really a whole lot on defense. I mean, you had Chase Lucas make some fine plays. You had a couple of interceptions, one by Stephen Gilmore, pick 6. Thing is, though, about a lot of these guys, they they are not on the team anymore. Jack Campbell played, though. He had 3 total tackles. One of them was solo. So he's on the field. He's making some plays. Not a whole lot, but he was making some plays. And a few other guys. Isaiah Buggs was just getting some reps. James Houston had 1.5 sacks. Again, this guy's just a sack merchant. Just seems like all he does is get sacks. I don't know if he knows that there's other ways to play the game, but hey, if all you can do is get sacks every single game, I'm gonna live with it. Other than them, not a whole lot to talk about as far as that game in particular. But that brings me then to a few of the other news surrounding the Lions specifically. So the first big story, before we actually get to the cuts, big story from Adam Schefter on Twitter, X. What's it called? I don't know what any of this is anymore, okay? I'm not on X, Twitter. I'm not on it. Lions are moving cornerback Emmanuel Moseley off the physically unable to perform list, and he will now open the season on the active roster, eligible to play on opening day. This is huge. Emmanuel Moseley was brought in on free agency. Obviously, he was coming off of an injury, so it was sort of a question mark, and it became a little concerning because every week they'd ask about Moseley. Oh, how's Moseley doing? And Coach Campbell, he was like, yeah, we don't really know how long it will be. We hope that it's not that long. And it's like, oh, please. We cannot afford to enter into this season up against Kansas City without a fully healthy starting defense, especially a fully healthy starting defense against Patrick Mahomes. Are you kidding me? And Emmanuel Moseley, hopefully, I would imagine, is going to be playing significant snaps in that game. Emmanuel Moseley, he's already got a resume in this league. He's a solid corner, and he's definitely going to be an upgrade from pretty much any of the corners we had last year. So definitely a huge boost. And on top of that as well, I didn't put it in the show notes, but Chris Jones, I believe is his name, Chris Jones, the D tackle for the Chiefs, he's put on the restricted list because they didn't figure out how to negotiate a contract with him. And that's another big story because that's a big piece on that Chiefs defense that is going to be out. So that's going to hopefully allow this Lions offense to be able to cook a little bit hotter than it otherwise would have been able to if he was on the field. So look at it this way, right? Our defense gets better with this, and their defense gets worse with that. Plain and simple. So that's the biggest thing out of this. The other thing to take from this is all of the cuts. So I'm going to list these off, and I will recognize most of these names. And I say most of them because I don't recognize all of them. But I can guarantee that most people will not recognize most of these names. And let's run it back. Okay. So, Lions, full, wave, cut, whatever. It depends on how long I guess I should explain the difference. So, players are waived if they're under 4 years of service time. Basically, that just means that they go through the list of teams, and teams can pick them up and, not have to pay, a lump sum for them. But they're not free agents. They just basically take on that contract. But sorry, I just saw Carson Kelly hit a double, and I was shocked. Honestly, that looked like that was not a double. But hey, I'll take it. But here we go. First, quarterback Adrian Martinez. We just talked about him a little bit. Running back Muhammad Ibrahim. Running back Devin Ozigbo. Running back Jermar Jefferson. Running back Craig Reynolds. Wow, that's a surprise. Some of these are new to me. Okay, so some of these are new. I didn't realize Craig Reynolds got cut. Wow, or waived. I don't know what the term. I'm gonna say cut. Maybe when it is actually waived. Just bear with me. Running back Benny Snell. Running back Trinity Benson. Wide receiver Avery Davis. Wide receiver Denzel Mims. Wide receiver Jason Moore. They recently just picked him up from the Chargers, and they just cut him. Okay, so they weren't very impressed. Wide receiver Trey Quinn. Wide receiver Chase Cota. Now that's another surprise. Wide receiver Dylan Drummond. Wide receiver Maurice Alexander. Maurice Alexander, of course, who had the punt return in the first week of preseason. Tight end Daniel Helm. Tight end Daryl Daniels. Guard Coyote Awosika. Apologize to Mr. Awosika. Connor Galvin. Tackle Max Percher. Tackle Ryan Swoboda. Center Brad Cecil. O-line Obina Eze. Of course, from Hard Knocks. If anyone watched last year's Hard Knocks, they should be familiar with Obina Eze. O-line Bobby Hart. O-line Jermaine Ifiti. O-line Alex Mollett. O-line Darren Paulo. D-line Christian Covington. D-line Corey Durden. D-line Chris Smith. Linebacker Trevor Nowaski. Cornerback Colby Richardson. Cornerback Chase Lucas, who I mentioned earlier, and also was featured on Hard Knocks. Cornerback Starling Thomas V. Safety Scott Nelson. Safety Savion Smith. Safety Brady Breeze. Safety Brandon Joseph. And kicker John Parker Romo. So, of this list, I'd say the biggest surprises, I mean, definitely not Adrian Martinez. He showed me nothing in the preseason. Craig Reynolds, bit of a surprise. Been with the team for a while. I mean, he's not an amazing running back, but hey, he was a decent back in the preseason. He was a decent back for us in 2021, but team's just gotten deeper and there's not enough room for a backup running back at this point, especially of his caliber. The other one that's a little surprising, Chase Cota. And Chase Cota, look, he didn't have a great final preseason game, but he was pretty much the main target for either Sudfeld or Bridgewater in the preseason. He showed some really nice flashes. I wouldn't be surprised if a team picks up Chase Cota because he seemed like a decent player. Same with Dylan Drummond. Had some nice flashes in the preseason, but again, the thing is, and Dan Campbell alluded to this, the team has just gotten better from a talent perspective that it just doesn't make any sense to keep some of these guys who might have some talent, who might have something, some use to a team that, you know, maybe a team that's not that good, or maybe a team that's, you know, down a wide receiver and they need to bring in someone that's capable of backup. I think it's potentially possible that you see some of these guys on practice squads or potentially on the bench for some teams. But we'll see. The other one that's a little surprising is Chase Lucas. Chase Lucas was a 7th round pick last year, corner out of Illinois. Yeah, I guess he just didn't impress enough. He had that interception last week in the preseason, which was a pretty exciting moment for him, but ultimately he just didn't really pan out, which is really, man, it's actually kind of sad because there was I believe a clip of, I think it was him. I'm almost certain it was him, where he was talking to the DB's coach, who actually is also fired since then. I don't even know who it was at the time. But he was talking to the DB's coach, and he was saying, this is in Hard Knocks, by the way. He was saying, like, you know, oh man, this year I just feel it, man. I feel like I'm gonna do something special, man. It's like, oh well, not only were you wrong, you're also not on the team anymore. So I don't mean to add insult to injury to poor Chase. Hopefully he finds a new home in the NFL. He showed flashes. That's all I can say. He showed some flashes. We'll see if it lasts, but I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if some of these guys end up on other teams' practice squads or end up on our own practice squad. But regardless, that was pretty much the big stuff to take away. As far as the Lions stuff, it just sets up, man, that preseason. Jeez, you know, I'm like still in preseason mode when I should realize that, hey, you know, actual football, real life football, believe it or not, is going to be starting here in just a week. I mean, college football starts in just a few days. Like, you know, things are exciting in the world of football, and I'm looking forward to football as much as the next guy. So, I will go ahead and move on to the rest of the NFL news here. Big couple of stories. I'll start with the first one that's a little bit smaller. And that would be that one, Josh Jacobs, running back for the Las Vegas Raiders, agrees to a new 1-year contract worth up to $12 million. So, I gotta say, for as much as we had to talk about these running backs, you know, in that brief moment of running back drama, I got to say, it's a little ironic to me. All these running backs, they talk the big talk. We need to get paid more. And they just crawl right back. And I'm not saying this to be like, some of them they have families, they got to pay. It's like, yeah, well, also, most of them have made a lot of money and they wouldn't be like, dying on the streets if they didn't play one season in the NFL to quote unquote prove a point. Now, if I'm them, I'm taking the money regardless. I like $12 million is $12 million. I think that's a good deal. Not only for the team in the Raiders, who are in an identity crisis as far as I'm concerned, but it allows for Josh Jacobs to, I suppose, for one, if you want to prove to the NFL, if you want to prove to the Raiders or whoever that you are worth more than, say, a 1 year, $12 million deal, well, go out and do it on the field. I mean, like, go out and show just how worth you are to the team. Basically, and I know what they might say, oh, well, you can be Jamal Williams. You can break Barry Sanders' rushing record and the team won't pay you. It's like, well, yeah. Like, because that's not, people look at more than just the box score, right? They're not like, there's a clear difference in, Barry Sanders and Jamal Williams. And even now, like, you just don't have a player like Barry Sanders, except for maybe like Derrick Henry and maybe a few other guys out there. But look, Josh Jacobs, he comes in, he's going to get his money. He's going to get $12 million. And I guess it really depends on where the Raiders are at if they're going to sell this trade deadline. Josh Jacobs could be a piece that would be sold. I mean, I don't really know. It's hard to gauge a team like the Raiders because they're just so baffling and they're just so confusing. Like I every week or not every week, every year there's always a team that you just got a feeling about where you're like, I just don't really trust them. Like, there's just something about them where I don't really know what they're doing. I just don't really, maybe I just don't really know that much. There's something about it. And the Raiders, to me, have been that team for like the past, I don't know, at least since like last year for sure. And I just don't really know what the goal is, especially with Derek Carr leaving. And I'm not a huge Derek Carr fan, but it's just like, I'm like, okay, you're moving Derek Carr, but you're bringing in Jimmy Garoppolo. Like, is there really like a cost benefit here? Like, why wouldn't you just keep Carr at that point? I don't really know. And I guess that's sort of the mantra of the Raiders. I wish Seth was here. He'd be able to give probably a little bit more insight onto the Raiders because I don't really see the Raiders all that often, although we will see the Raiders this year. But they just seem to me to be always that franchise where you're just like, yeah, what are you trying to do? Like, what is your team built around exactly? Is it I don't know. But speaking of things that I don't know and I don't understand. This is the biggest news story. I'd say in the weeks leading up to the season, I think this is the biggest news story. Trey Lance traded to the Dallas Cowboys for some late round picks. I don't have the exact picks in front of me. Let me see if perhaps it shows the actual deal. This is another thing about this deal. I guess it doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't really say. I don't know. It's some late term deal. And this to me is pretty shocking because I remember when, the Niners traded up, they were going to come get their guy. They were going to get Trey Lance. It was a big shock. I believe it was a draft night trade. I'm almost certain it was. And they came in, they got their guy, allegedly, because Jimmy G was not the man of the future. Trey Lance was the man of the future. And I mean, the guy just couldn't stay healthy. And then they still were succeeding. The thing about it was, it'd be one thing if the Niners had Trey Lance going down and they started to suck without Trey Lance. Okay, I can understand that. But they were actually successful without Trey Lance. And then what really was the nail in the coffin to me was, you do that 1 year, okay, fine. The next year you get hurt again. It's like, okay, well, that's no bueno. But also, the guy who replaces you, Brock Purdy, who was picked last in the draft, Mr. Irrelevant Brock Purdy, comes in and basically commands the offense. He becomes, I suppose, the kind of player you were expecting Trey Lance to be. He looks like the quarterback. He looks like the leader of the team. And Trey Lance just never looked like that. I saw some stat, or I heard some stat that it was like he had started like less games than like players who hadn't played in the NFL yet, like, or something like that, over like a period of it was absurd. Like, he really hadn't played a lot. And to see a top 3, not a top 5, a top 3 pick quarterback in the draft get traded just 2 seasons after getting drafted. I can't think of anything comparable. I honestly can't. Like, usually you're so you put so much into that. You traded up. You gave up capital. It's surprising to me that they would do this. But at the same time, they weren't impressed by him, right? They weren't getting a whole lot out of him. So I suppose if you're the 49ers, trade while the market's hot. And, the thing about it is, with Trey Lance, is he's going to be behind Dak Prescott for at least a couple of years. And we probably won't know the kind of quarterback he is. Like, he might go down by the end of it. He might go down as one of the biggest mysteries in all of football of what this guy could have been. Because I don't know if he's ever going to be the quarterback that they drafted him at number 3 overall. And every year, this goes without saying, but every year there is a player like this. Every single draft, no matter what, there's a player that at the time seems like a home run, seems like a clear cut. This is going to work out. And that's the thing that I don't really like about a lot of these draft shows. It's like every time it's like, oh, this guy, I love this guy. He's got this, and that. He's got these traits. He's so good. This guy is going to do such great things for so. It's like every single player is good according to the NFL draft, or at least according to the NFL draft analysts. Like all the analysts, all the people, all the reporters. They're always the draft is like every player is good. That's crazy. Every single player is good. And you learn the hard way. And you just think players that were drafted after. Let me do that. That might be an interesting exercise. And I apologize to 49ers fans, but we're going to go through this. 2021 NFL draft. Let's go ahead. Take a look at the draft. So, players taken after Trey Lance. And some of these are of differing quality. They're not all equal. But Kyle Pitts, Jamar Chase, Jalen Waddle, Penei Sewell, Patrick Surtain II, Devontae Smith, Micah Parsons, Sean Slater. Hey, I'd take any of those guys over Trey Lance, right? I mean, any of those guys. And that's just like in the top 13. I mean, I'm not even going through. I mean, Travis Etienne, probably take him, right? I mean, he's sort of an unknown, but I think he could be probably pretty good running back. A few of these other guys, let me see some of the second round picks. Let's see. See if somebody catches my eye. Hey, Aleem McNeil for the Lions. He could be an interesting player. We don't know. Like, most of these guys in the later rounds, you're not really gonna know. Amari Rodgers, though, seems like a decent player. Like, I guess my point is ultimately that you traded up so far to get him, and you end up getting some late round picks for him. And if you're Dallas, he's not even your starting quarterback. So you are taking a risk, actually, if you're Dallas, which is funny given the low cost of the risk. So it's a low cost, high reward situation, right? For if you're Dallas, okay, you're not really going to miss those late round picks most likely. And further, like, I don't know, like, if Dak Prescott goes down, right, and you gotta start Trey Lance, well, hey, maybe a change of scenery will change things for Trey. I don't know, or maybe he's just. I think for me, this is like one of those moments where people forget about the common sense aspect of taking an NFL player, which is they're not robots, they're not automatons, they're not box scores, they're not, football reference pages, they're not, all this nonsense. They're human beings. They're human beings. And if you simply haven't done a job for enough time, you could be really good at that small period of time. You could be really good in general. Like you could okay. Let me use basketball example, okay? You could be 6'5", have played 3 basketball games your entire life and dominated in those games, right? You could average 40 points in those 3 games. You do it for enough time, reality starts to set in, and you don't actually, you're not ready for the job. You told that person, hey, you're going to go play in the NBA and you're going to be a starting center or a starting shooting guard or whatever. They're not going to be able to perform. They haven't done it enough. A lot of this is just repetition. In life, that's just what it is. You get more comfortable in any job. I get more comfortable in this. This isn't a job exactly, but this is a hobby. I get more comfortable the more I do it, right? The more that I just kind of do it, the better I'm going to get, and the more confident I'm going to feel in doing. In Trey Lance's case, he just didn't play enough football, and he was thrust into this NFL landscape when he was not ready. He just wasn't. I think it's going to be a lesson for a lot of college players, And look, if you're a first-round pick, Trey Lance is pretty much set for life, right? I mean, how much is this guy getting paid? How much? Let's take a look. Trey Lance salary. Trey Lance is getting an average annual salary of $8.5 million. Don't think Trey Lance is going to go poor, unless he's very bad with money. But my point is here that I know the money can be tempting. If you're, a 20-year-old college student playing in North Dakota, did he play for North Dakota State? I believe he did. Played for some college that, frankly, not a lot of people get to watch. You're probably not going to get a whole lot of NIL money. But you have to think a little bit more than just, I need this money now. I know I might not succeed in this particular job, but I'm going to get a lot of money, and that'll make me set. And, I'm not saying I would be able to be able to do that, because, frankly, if I could have with good reason belief that a team that, like San Francisco at that point, was competing for championships, I would not be, I'm not gonna stop myself, right? I'm not gonna be like, oh no, I would never take that money. Like I want to make sure that I'm ready for the job. It's like, if they're willing to do it, it's like, okay, sure. It's like, if a job had told me, hey, Mike, we're going to pay you $50 an hour, even though this job is pretty much out of your purview and you are pretty much out of your league. Okay, sure. You're going to pay me $50 an hour. I'll try to figure it out. I can't assure you I'll do a good job, but please, you're going to pay me that much. That's a small example. In this case, $8.5 million a year. Please, I'll do coding for $8.5 million a year. I won't be able to get any code done, but if you're going to pay me $8.5 million a year, please, where's the computer? let me figure out how Python works. Like, in this case, he didn't know how to play a quarterback at the NFL level. He just didn't. And maybe this time in Dallas, maybe he'll figure it out. I mean, Mike McCarthy is not a brilliant in-game coach, but I think he's got some valuable insights that could be helpful for a young quarterback like Trey Lance. So if they decide to keep Mike McCarthy around, which depending on how they do this year, I don't know if that will be the case. We'll see. We'll see about Trey Lance. I think he could be an interesting story at some point in the future, but as it stands now, he's just sort of a big what if. We don't know what's going to happen with him. But yeah, that's pretty much all I got to say on Trey Lance and that whole situation. So the other big news in the NFL to me that caught my attention was this little snippet. Another tweet from Adam Schefter. And now the Cardinals have released veteran quarterback Colt McCoy per league sources. Either veteran Josh Dobbs, whom Arizona acquired last week, or rookie fifth-round quarterback Clayton Tune will start opening day at Washington. Translation. Arizona is tanking. They want Caleb Williams. They are not trying to win this year. They probably aren't trying to win next year. What they want is that quarterback at USC that we talked about earlier that threw for 250 yards in his first game this year. They want the man out of University of Southern California, Mr. Caleb Williams. And they will do anything in their power to do it. They will go as far as to, and I am not exaggerating, go 0-17 to ensure that they get Caleb Williams. I am, at this point, convinced that they will go 0-17. And I know it is incredibly difficult to go 0-17. No team has ever done it. Understood. Only other teams that have lost that have gone 0-16, which is the closest we've gotten to 0-17, obviously, were the Lions in 2008 and the Browns in 2017. Understood. Okay? Your quarterback, if you're the Cardinals, is one of Josh Dobbs, who is like an XFLer, basically, or Clayton Tune, who he could walk in right now, wouldn't know who he is. Wouldn't know who he is. I don't know how you can read this other than the Cardinals just don't care. And to me, here's my thing, okay? I'm generally speaking anti-deliberate tanking, okay? What the Lions did in 2021 was not deliberate, right? They didn't go out there and bench their best player. They put out the best they had to offer, and the best they had to offer was awful. It was just bad. In this case, if you're the Cardinals, you know Kyler Murray has no legs. His legs are gone. He's like Lieutenant Dan. And so you're like, okay, well, we don't have quarterback Lieutenant Dan. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and release Colt McCoy, and we're just gonna say, you know what, this game, this series, this season, we're gonna give it up. We're gonna give it up for Caleb Williams. And the reason I don't really like the tanking thing is because when you tank, there's no guarantee of success one way or the other, okay? So, for one, players don't tank. Players are always going to play as hard as they can. They're going to try to win. And same with the coaches. Coaches don't want to tank. It's ridiculous. It doesn't matter if you're 0-16 going into week 8 or going into week 18. All those players, they're going to play like it's the Super Bowl, right? I mean, maybe not exactly to that level, but they're going to play to win. They're going to play to win. They want to avoid embarrassment, and good for them. I wouldn't. It's embarrassing if I have to be a fan of a team and talk about it. Like I feel sorry for Cardinals radio or Cardinals, beat writers this year because they're basically going to have to talk about a team that just doesn't care. And if they don't care, why should I care? Honestly, it's especially upsetting to me because this is the team that just had a franchise quarterback. They just got Kyler Murray, and they just extended his, they just extended him, what is you're already like, you know what? This toy's broken. Mommy, I want a new toy. It's as if your mommy got you the new Nerf gun and you throw it on the garbage and you broke its, you broke its trigger and you're like, Mommy, I want the brand new Nerf gun. why should I take that person seriously? Why should I take that team seriously? It's ridiculous to me. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if Goodell comes down on them for this sort of thing because it's a bad look for the league. And look, I don't want any draft lottery in the NFL. I've already discussed my disdain for a draft lottery. But you know, this sort of thing is like, obviously you can't stop a team if they're just like, you know what, we're gonna cut our best players and we're gonna feign a sense that we're trying to win. But look, reality is people can see this right from the get-go. This is a team that honestly, at most, could win one game. Like, what is the Cardinals season looking like? Let's take a look. Arizona Cardinals schedule. So that was the preseason. They start the season against the Commanders on the road. That's going to be a awful game. That's like the worst game maybe ever. I guess I'd take the Commanders on the road. Giants at home, I'll take the Giants. Cowboys at home, Cowboys. On the road, Niners. Bengals at home, I'll take the Bengals. Rams, that could be a tank bowl. But I'd probably take the Rams. It's on the road. On the road, Seahawks. Ravens at home, take the Ravens. On the road against the Browns. Deshaun Watson is even slightly above average. I'll take the Browns. At home against Falcons, I'll take the Falcons. You know, here's what it's going to be. I think this actually could come down. It could be on the road against the Texans. Depending on the situation, this could be the game. This could be the game that they could win. Although it's going to be on the road in, not I would say enemy territory because it's the Texans, but at the same time, I realize that there's very little Texans fans, so that probably is not going to be, and it's going to be week 11, and their season's probably going to be over by that point. So yeah. Then at home against the Rams, on the road against the Steelers, I'm going to call that. I'm going to call those two losses. At home against the 49ers, on the road against the Bears, on the road against the Eagles, and the Seahawks at home to end the season. Only game I can really see them winning right now is the Texans. It's the only game. I mean, maybe the Bears, depending on if Justin Fields is just that bad. But I doubt it. I mean, they did get better in other areas, so Justin Fields, that'd be really bad. Maybe the Rams. They could split with the Rams, depending on how bad the Rams are. I mean, the rest of these, though, like, I just don't see it. And especially given that you're going to have Josh Dobbs, Clayton Tune. How can you seriously say to your fans, this is what we're going to put out for you? That's just so disrespectful to me. That to me is just disrespectful. But yeah. So wonderful. Cardinals decide they don't want to play football. They want a new toy. So see if it works out for them. I really don't know. I hope it doesn't. So yeah. But I wanted to spray a little bit of baseball in here. Just a pinch. Okay? Pinch of baseball because Tiger season is over. They're not making the playoffs. And Akil Baddoo just struck out on 3 pitches. Padres are out as well for Seth. I mean, I guess the Padres have a little bit more of a realistic shot. But the Tigers probably out. Here's the main takeaway of this past week. Tigers lost 2 out of 3 to both the Cubs and the Astros. But my man Parker Meadows, okay? I got to pull up Parker Meadows' numbers. Parker Meadows, let's do, can I get the MLB? I think this is live. Okay, yeah, I think this is accurate. Parker Meadows has had 7 hits and 24 ABs. He's had a walk-off home run, 4 RBIs, a stolen bag, batting .292, a .956 OPS. He's 23 years old. He's got a great glove in the outfield. He's made some plays. Like, They have his last 7 and last 15 games. His last 7 games, he's batting .316 with a let me do the quick math, like 980 OPS. All I'm saying is, he's been as good as it gets, I suppose. He was taken like years ago. 2018 was when he was drafted in the 2nd round. And obviously he's the brother of Austin Meadows, who is, technically speaking, still on the team for the Tigers. I wish I had an update for you. I don't know where he is. But look, Parker Meadows showing some good stuff. I don't know. I don't know if it means anything. It could be just lightning in a bottle. It could be a nothing burger. I don't know. But the guy's 23 years old. Still got plenty of time before he hits his prime. He's going to be under team control for a long time. And he seems like he's ready to play. And this would be then, I mean, look, this is the first, I would say, major call-up that the Tigers have made in the Scott Harris era. I'm trying to think of any other example. Honestly, no. It's basically just Parker Meadows. And he's come up and he's immediately played well. Like, he's immediately hit for power with the home run. He's at double. He's a triple. He's immediately just done things. Like, he's immediately been effective. It's none of this, he's still working on things, just a slow. Like, no. He was ready to go, and there he is, right? Like, it's a total opposite of the last regime, where Torkelson comes up, and he struggles. And he struggles some more, and he struggles all season. And now he's starting to put it together. And Riley Green comes up, and he struggles. And he struggles. And he struggles. And Kerry Carpenter, he comes up, he's okay. He's not amazing. But, like, all those guys, they all got better. But Parker Meadows comes up immediately. Immediately a player. Like, immediately somebody who you can rely on to get a hit for the most part. I guess in my world, like, I don't know if this is just a matter of the total new regime and the new development staff and whatever, and this is just, a sign of things to come from the guys that we draft and the guys that we trade for and all that jazz. I just hope that Parker Meadows is a sign of things to come. I think he could be a really good player. He could be nothing. I don't know. Point is, right now, he's one of the better hitters in our lineup. So, we'll see. But, yeah, that's all I wanted to talk about briefly for the baseball world. So, that brings us to the final segment of the show. We got to do a little college football preview. So, I'm not going to preview all these games because I alluded to it earlier. We got some elite matchups, okay? We got such amazing matchups as Rhode Island at Georgia State and NC State at UConn. And, of course, we have South Dakota at Missouri. I mean, why do we exist in this cruel, cruel world? I'll preview Michigan State at the end because that's the main team that I'm going to be focused on. But the big matchups that I'm going to keep an eye out for this weekend, probably Minnesota or Nebraska at Minnesota. So both these teams kind of interesting. Matt Rule taking over at Nebraska. PJ Fleck still over at Minnesota, trying to put something together, right? And it's going to be a Thursday night game. So we'll get an early look at this. That should be an interesting matchup. I think if I had to guess, I'd probably take Minnesota here. But I don't know. Could be an interesting Big Ten matchup there. I believe it's the only Big Ten matchup of the week, so it's something to watch. That's on Thursday. On Friday is the Michigan State game. I'll talk about that. On Saturday, though, we have not a whole lot of super interesting games, to be perfectly honest with you. Mostly uninteresting games. Trying to see if I can find something of note. They're all pretty bad. I'll just go out and say that. They're all pretty bad. I mean, you have I'm really grasping at straws here. You have East Carolina at Michigan, so you get a first look at the number 2 ranked team in the country. Although it's only on Peacock, so you're gonna have to buy Peacock if you want to watch Michigan score 162 to nothing against East Carolina. I guess maybe Virginia at Tennessee. Tennessee coming off of obviously a really good year, but no Hendon Hooker. So that might be interesting. Yeah, none of these are really all that interesting. I've got to be honest. Georgia's taking on UT Martin. I mean, why do you even play the game? Why? Why is that a real thing? I mean, maybe New Mexico at Texas A&M. Texas A&M, obviously, an interesting team. We don't really know what the deal is with Jimbo and, all the money they've been spending, and we'll see if it ends up paying out. But I'm grasping at straws here, okay? It's week 1. You got North Carolina at South Carolina. That might be an interesting game. Just saying. Might be something. Might be something there. But the best game of the week for me, for my money, best game of the week is not on Saturday, not on Thursday, not on Friday, not on Monday. It would be Sunday night football, the last Sunday night football that is not NFL. That would be number 5 in the country, LSU, heading to Orlando, Florida, to take on Florida State. I believe that's a neutral site. I don't think it's Camping World Stadium in Orlando. That's not. Yeah, that's okay. I didn't want the AccuWeather. I wanted the page of the stadium, but I'm pretty sure that's not where Florida State plays. Florida State football stadium. Yeah, they are in Tallahassee. That's what I thought. So, but that game, not to get too off track, that game in particular is the only top 25 matchup in all of week 1, including week 0, which to me is absurd, especially given that we have to wait until Sunday, which we don't have to do for college football ever, but we're going to do that for this game for some reason. Okay, fine, whatever. So that should be a really interesting game. Brian Kelly over in LSU. LSU is a very hyped team this year. I think they could be an interesting team. You can make the SEC a little bit more interesting, and so it's not just the Georgia show. And then Florida State is another team that, ACC, that could be an interesting matchup. And they're top 10 team in the country, number 8. We'll see. We'll see what happens with those two teams. I think it could be a really interesting matchup. So yeah, those are the games to look out for. But I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about my Spartans, Michigan State, Friday night under the lights, September 1st. Friday Night Lights, Central Michigan, heading to East Lansing, take on the Spartans. So I want to see if we have some. Yes, we do have. I want a depth chart. Do we not have a depth chart? This is just like a list of players. This is not helpful. Okay. This is not helpful. This is very not helpful. I'm trying to see if do they not give me a depth chart? That's useless. Okay, well, let me see if I can find it. See football depth chart. Here we go. Okay. So the big thing that is of note for this particular year, and also I think Gold's new addition, graduate transfers, and freshmen. Okay, so this is actually a really helpful page. So big thing is the quarterback position. Obviously, Peyton Thorne left, so Noah Kim is in. There's also the potential of seeing Caton Hauser, who's the redshirt freshman. Maybe. We'll see what happens there. Also, the Sam Levitt. I don't know who this person is. And a Andrew Schorfauer, redshirt junior. I don't know. Sam Levitt, though, is this new freshman guy that's been brought in recruit-wise. So, he's new guy. But I don't think he's going to get any playing time. I think it's probably Noah Kim's job to lose. And the small sample size we got of Noah Kim last year, he looked okay. We'll see if maybe he got better. I don't know. We'll see. But as far as other positions on the team, it's very similar from the player one as far as what we had last year. Or at least I shouldn't say similar in that we lost Keon Coleman in the wide receiver room, for example. But a lot of the players were here last year. So you have Montori Foster Jr. as the wide receiver X, and the first one of the wide receiver X. I don't know some of these terminologies. Just our three wide receivers: Christian Fitzpatrick and Trey Mosley. Only one that I know. But some of the other depth pieces that are 3 or 2 in the depth chart, you have Alante Brown, who is a transfer. And you have a couple of recruits. You have Jalen Smith and Isaiah Johnson. Both receivers that are freshmen, new additions. OC. What is that? That's offensive coordinator? I'm not sure what that is. I don't know what that. Hold on. What is OC? Offensive line? Like what is? Oh, like center? Okay, I think that's what that is. Why is it OC? Okay. New addition to the center depth group is Cole Dellinger, freshman. And as well to the other parts of the line, we have Keyshawn Blackston, who was a junior transfer, and Stanton Rammel, who was a freshman. So a lot of potentially new guys. Tight end though. So the other one that we came back with was Malik Carr. Malik Carr was actually a pretty decent option as far as weapon goes. He's a big guy. He made catches and he was hard to tackle. So I kind of like Malik Carr. But there's a lot of new additions with transfers. We have Jalen Franklin, who is a transfer senior. You have Tynell Hopper, who's a transfer. And then way deep, we also still have Evan Morris. Don't even know who that is. We also have Adamola Falaye, junior transfer. I don't know who most of these people are. But as far as the running back position, so we no longer have I don't even remember the guy's name, but we still have running back one is Jalen Berger. I don't even remember who the other guy, Broussard. I think that was his name. Broussard was the running back. I guess he graduated or left. I don't remember. But we also brought in a couple of transfers: Nathan Carter, Jaron Mangum. I don't know who those people are, but there are a couple of transfers. And Jordan Simmons and Davion Prim. A couple of guys brought in. Davion Prim is sophomore. But big point is on offense, it's a lot of still question marks. It's really a matter of if Noah Kim is the guy. And looking at some of the new additions, we have a couple of new receivers, but we're going to need some step-up performances from a guy like Trey Mosley and a couple of these other transfers that have come in. I don't know how good this offense is going to be. It's going to go at least as far as Noah Kim goes. But honestly, looking at those weapons, looking at the depth piece, I don't know who any of these guys are. It's a real question mark for sure. On defense, though, this is where we have a few other, additions and new guys and stuff like that. On the right edge, we have a sophomore transfer by the name of Tumis Adelaye. I'm trying my best. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, but I'm trying my best. Sophomore transfer. So I don't know. Maybe we get something out of him. A few other guys that I'm not really all that familiar with. Angelo Gross is a NB. I don't know. Why don't they just use normal? It's like, what is NB? Normal back? Okay. Chester Kimbrough, the right cornerback. See, I know that. That makes sense. Jaden Mangum is our front safety. Dylan Tatum is our special safety. I don't know what SS means other than stormtrooper. That's a Nazi term. Charles Brantley, left cornerback. Cal Halliday, middle linebacker. Jacoby Windman, he's a linebacker as well. He's a senior. I believe he came in last year. He looked pretty good early and then just went away. Simeon Barrow Jr. on the right defensive tackle. Derek Harmon on the left defensive tackle. Chris Bogle. Basically, all this is to say, and I can go through more of these names. I'm not going to do that. All this is to say is I don't know who most of these guys are. And that just means I don't know what I'm going to get this Friday. I hope that I get a competent blowout, essentially. That's what I'm hoping for. And I know I talked about how I wanted better games on week 1 and week 0. Look, I want better games for other teams. I don't need them for my team. My team can blow them out. That's fine with me. And especially with Central Michigan, I mean, this is a MAC team. This is a team that you are in another league with. You should go in and beat them to a bloody pulp, right? You should. This is basically a preseason game, or at least it should be. So, yeah, I am hoping for Noah Kim to show that he can be QB1. I'm not putting in a whole lot of hope, but hey, we'll see what happens, I guess. This is a weird year for Mel Tucker, for the Spartans. I don't know what I'm going to get, and I hope it's not more of what I got last year. So we'll see about it, but that is where I'm going to have to wrap up the show. So a few show notes as well. This Friday, I will be going live with the Michigan State opener. We will get a live call-in from Seth after the game to get his live reaction. He will be at the game. I will not be at the game. This is also not going to be a regular occurrence as opposed to with the Lions games, mostly because with the home games, I'm going to be going to tailgates for those games because I'm not just going to sit at home by myself and watch them. But maybe for the away games, probably for the away games, I will be broadcasting those. But just a note, this Friday, again, MSU Central should be a good time, hopefully. Hopefully the Spartans put up 52. That would be great. But that is where I'm going to have to wrap the show. Thank you all for coming in. If you came in, you stopped by for a little bit. And yeah, I will see you all this Friday. Hopefully next week Seth will be back. And next week is going to be a highly anticipated show. It's going to be the first preview of week 1 of the NFL and our reactions to Michigan State. We'll have actual things to react to. We'll have actual, real, tangible things to react to and to predict. It's going to be great. I'm looking forward to it. So I hope to see you all next week. And that's all I got. I got nothing more to say. Take care, everybody. Have a great night, and I will see you next show. Goodbye.